Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of the First World Problems podcast. My name is Frank, and I'll be your podcast master. Now, in this podcast, I want to talk to you, on this very first episode, I want to talk to you about girls. Now, this won't be your traditional podcast about love. I'm going to give you my opinion and what I have learned about love in my whole 24 years of life. Well, there goes my age, but I'm not really worried about that. I've always been the awkward guy, the shy guy who doesn't say much. But maybe the people who know me better would say I'm full of shit because I can never shut up. But that's after you get to know me, the real Frank. At first, I'm really shy and awkward. Then I become a talkative person, still a little awkward. Anyways, I've come to terms with myself that I'm a little behind when it comes to growing up. But to me, that just means I enjoyed my childhood a whole fucking lot, even though I had up and downs just like anybody does in life. So, honest fact number 2, I've never been in a serious relationship, and all I have is failed attempts, because I was always the guy who was rejected, or friend zoned for that matter. As a matter of fact, I invented the friend zone. No, just kidding. But I'm sure I'm not the only guy who has been a victim of such cruelty. It was a thing before the internet made it a thing, so if that makes sense. So out of all my crushes, none of them ever became a thing. I had a few hand grabs, hugs, kisses, but nothing really serious. But I was just a high school kid. What the hell did I know? Yeah, and all that rejection left a scar on me that still won't heal. But what are we gonna do about it? I'd still remember when I had a crush on a girl, but then never got nothing out of it. It was a little bit frustrating. But then again, I was still in high school. If anybody tries to tell me that rejection doesn't hurt, I would say they're full of shit. So freshman year, I had a crush on this girl who I won't even mention just in case she ever hears this podcast. I doubt it, but it could happen. You never know. But she was ugly, but she had a fine ass. Of course, when you're a freshman in high school, we're all ugly as shit. Even some of us after puberty hits us. Sometimes you can still look weird as shit. I was a little embarrassed to tell all my close friends I had a crush on her since she had a nickname that I would never agree on, but it was very funny. It was hilarious. During high school, she developed quite a reputation for herself, but she still had that fine body, so since it's been a while that I went to high school, I can't remember all of my crushes. Anyways, let's move on to sophomore year. Sophomore year came along. Actually, I can't remember much about sophomore year. Nothing really important. Neither did junior year. Those were alright. But when senior year came along, there were a few crushes. I remember that there was this freshman who was friends with my cousin. She was a petite girl. And I realized up to this day, that's still a weakness of mine. Petite woman. And of course of legal age, because I'm not trying to go to jail anytime soon. But this girl was a little crazy, a little cuckoo. I happened to stay at my cousin's house one night. I can't remember why, but she was there. My crush was there. Alright, so she supposedly had a boyfriend, but she was flirting with me. But of course, I had no problem with that. She kept grabbing my legs. I guess that was my best feature. I don't know. I was still a senior year. Senior year Frank was the best shape I've ever been. I was still awkward. An awkward motherfucker who didn't know how to flirt with chicks. The weird part is that all year long, she ignored me hard. Really, really hard. I once went straight up to say hello, and she kept walking like if I was invisible. That was probably one of the worst days in my life. Then I realized that a woman could be a complete bitch. Now I normally don't diss or cuss at women like that because I'm a gentleman. But that time I felt really vulnerable. Like if you ever needed that in high school to feel vulnerable. Alright, well, anyways, she added salt to a cut that only got deeper and deeper. And prom? Don't even get me started on prom, I swear. I asked a girl who was a freshman on the soccer team. She ended up canceling on me a few days later because she had family plans, her quinceañera was about to happen, yada yada yada, whatever. So I was the guy who ended up going to prom with no date. While my two best friends, they had dates, of course. And one of those dates was my cousin. Yeah, the one with the really hot friend. Yeah, the girl who was friends with that cold bitch. Yeah, that one. And even the dance was fine, even though I'm a terrible dancer. The after party is where shit went bad. My cousin, she got drunk as fuck. and she was the only freshman hanging out with a lot of seniors. And where was I, you may ask? Well, I was playing Guitar Hero like a boss. After a while, my friend, the one who took us to prom, comes up to me and says, "Wait, your cousin is all drunk, man. She keeps taking shot after shot." And I thought, well, I'm not the boss of her. That's when my friend got mad as hell. And yeah, my answer was not the best either. So he dragged my ass and my drunk cousin out of the party and into the car. He was sure taking us home. We tried to sober her up with some cheeseburgers from McDonald's, but that didn't work. And luckily she didn't puke, so when we got there to her house, there was one of the biggest challenge of my teenage life. Trying to explain to my aunt what the fuck happened, and those were her exact words as we arrived. The way she was yelling at us, I thought, shit, I'm dead. She is going to kill us right here, right now, and bury our bodies in the desert. After like a 2-hour lecture, my friend got mad as fuck with me, which I can't blame him for being angry at me. I thought it was gonna be the end of our friendship. Or I thought he was gonna beat the crap out of me for dragging him down to hell. My cousin and my best friend, they were trying to get in a relationship, but it didn't work. Not at all. My aunt got involved in it and threw my uncle into the mix. Terrible experience. That's something that taught me that never try to hook up my relatives with any of my friends. A lesson well learned after that first nightmare that was prom. Actually, something else comes to my mind. There was a time with my drunk cousin, that one that was about to have her quinceañera. Yes, that one who got drunk. And this was way before the prom thing happened. Somewhere along senior year. Her name is Janet, which I might be in trouble for saying her name, but I guess it might be less confusing than just calling her my drunk cousin. But I have plenty of cousins who I might mention in the near future. I don't know. I just don't want to take a long time explaining who's who. Well, back to the quinceañera story. Janet was trying to hook me up with her friend, which I'm not gonna lie. She was not a petite, cute girl, but she was definitely a hot girl. So we ended up making plans, who was gonna dance with who, blah blah blah. And her mom came along and changed our plans all along. And I ended up with a girl who was not my crush. She wasn't bad either, but she was not my type of girl. And I really wanted to be paired up with my crush. And speaking of quinceañeras, another one of my cousins was having hers that same year as well. And guess who was part of it? Yup, this guy right here. And the only thing I didn't like about this quinceañera is that I wasn't originally part of it. I was just an afterthought because my cousin had some guys from her court of honor that were moving out of town, so they had to replace them. So yep, I became part of the idiots that dance along with the quinceañera and his partner known as the chambelan. On this occasion, I was actually quite pleased with who my partner was this time around. I just wish the girl could have said the same thing about me. She was not happy to be my partner at all, but I didn't care because I was really happy. She didn't like me, I was fascinated. She was a hottie for a kid like me. Anyways, after running down on memory lane, the only run I've done in the past few weeks, I gotta say that even high school was alright. Not the highlight of my life, definitely no. Hell no. But after high school, I was a different man. I was a bit more mature than my high school self. In college, things changed a little bit. I had 2 relationships that were not really successful. I guess I wouldn't be talking about them if they were not failures, you know. The first one was Blondie. She was way out of my league. Still wonder how that happened. She was a few years older than me. It didn't last long. She was ready to settle down. I was just 20, she was 24, and I didn't know why the rush, but now it kind of hit me. The second one was something I'm not really proud of. This girl simply used me to know what her ex was doing. So here I am 4 years later in a different city. I call this one my third hometown, Arlington, Texas, where I had a few more sad stories with girls I was trying to get with that obviously didn't end well. The first one is one of my managers from the first place that I used to work. It was a fast food restaurant and she was my manager. This is where I met her. This girl had some miles on her already. She was a single mother of 2. She already knew I liked her. I let her know so many times. She still decided to play mind games with me, and she was supposedly breaking up with her current relationship at the time, blah blah blah. She was tired of this bullshit, yada yada yada. And honestly, I thought, well, this is gonna be simple. She breaks up with the guy, I get the girl. Oh, was I wrong and naive to think it was that simple? The first time this girl and her relationship, her boyfriend broke up, let me throw some quotations up in this bitch, she already knew my feelings for her. I was willing to accept her with her kids and everything, because who am I to judge? I was raised by a stepfather who did a lot for me. That's gonna be for a different episode. And instead of taking my offer, what did she do? She went back to her ex just a few days after the breakup. So I decided to move on and continue with my life, but that ghost was still there. So a few months later, I hear again, oh, I'm gonna break up with this guy. Same guy, I can't stand it. Same story, blah, 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 blah. And there goes Frank again, trying to make it happen with this girl at this point, I already knew she was still playing with me. And this time it hurt even more because I fell for it again. A few weeks later, this guy shows up with roses at the restaurant and he asked for her. I couldn't believe it. He asked for forgiveness and she fell for it. I could smell the bullshit miles away. I lost twice to the same guy. You know what they say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But at this point, this story's no longer worth it anymore. This shit was starting to sound more like a Taylor Swift song, where I was the protagonist, as corny as that sounds. But anyway, so for my own good, I decided to live alone, and because I knew nothing was gonna happen. Her Stockholm Syndrome got the best, or the worst of her, should I say. I don't really know, I don't really care. And said and done, she decided to quit work at the restaurant because she got tired of all the drama when she didn't realize she was already living in her own soap opera. So eventually I left that place too because all the drama and bullshit. I started working at a call center where I realized how much time I had lost at that fast food restaurant. The most recent story is at this call center where I've been working for a while. There was this girl who I was interested in since I started working there. A pretty blonde. Yep, here we go again with the blondies. The only difference is that in this scenario, she was 21 and I was 24 and I am 24. And it's here where I understood the needs of the first blondie from college. Even though I don't want to get married yet, I could see why she wanted to. Mid-20s, you're not a kid anymore, but you're definitely not that old either. I guess her maternal instincts kicked in, but that's my guess. Blondie number 2 was in a relationship ever since I started working at the call center. The only thing I could do is curse that lucky bastard. The past few months were kind of interesting since she broke up with her boyfriend, and here goes Frank again. I guess I didn't learn my lesson the first time around, and it wasn't going to be simple again. I was about to get in some weird shit. So she either went back with her ex, sounds familiar, or she found another guy right away. From what I heard, she was cheated on and in such pain, blah blah blah, same story. Sounds familiar, right? Well, hang on. A few days later, she decided to tell me the whole story, and I tried to comfort her and tell her, because like I said, I'm a gentleman. And I said, if I could ever help you in anything, just let me know. And she was like, okay, thanks. And that was the end of that conversation. This was a while ago. Then recently, I heard through a grapevine that she was dating an older guy who already had kids. I'm like, that sounds familiar, said the guy who already tried that. And that was true. It was actually true. And I heard it from her a few weeks later while we were having lunch. She said she was dating this guy as in the past tense. So I thought this was my chance. Well, it wasn't. Even though she kept throwing mixed signals at me and giving me her number, but never answering my text messages. And I know she could have just gave me a fake number, but her voicemail did confirm it was her. She just wouldn't text back, which it fucking sucks. So here I am, ready to move on once more, because I'm done waiting for her to decide whether she wants to be with me or not. And with this story, we're going to conclude the end of the podcast. Right now, I'm talking to a girl, and I'm not going to mention her name either because she's from my second hometown, El Paso, and I just want to know what's going to happen in the near future. So with this story, we conclude the end of this podcast. Brothers and sisters, you may now leave in peace. Church reference. And that's it. That's pretty much what I've learned through my life about women. I'm still optimistic about life, and because I know that I'm not at the end of it. So let's see what happens in the future. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you subscribe and share this with friends and family members that can relate to this. I've been Frank. I've been your podcast master. And until the next time, be safe and do what you gotta do in order to be happy in this life. Fuck the rest and fuck the world.